little more complicated. This is going to be a banded RDL. So there's two ways to do this. I am taking a band and I basically made a little knot out of this. So all I did was literally just tie it together, made a loop, and now I knotted it. And so there's two loops to it. And I'm going to stand over this and create more tension. Now, you don't have to do that. This is if your bands are like in between two bands where the band is too long and there's really not enough tension. So this just kind of shortens the band. You don't have to do that. Now, the second thing is that I got a thicker band and I did lock it behind a door. So it's not at the door knob, it's actually on the opposing side of the door. So when you are taking a band and you are using a door, you don't want to necessarily put it on the side where the doorknob is. It's not going to be as tight. Instead, lock it in between the other side and it's going to be tight as hell. It's not going to come out. Now, the problem with just using a band alone and not having the second band is that when we do an RDL, what's happening here is that typically with dumbbells, when we're on our way back down, this is going to be the heaviest part because we're stretching the hamstrings, we're stretching the glutes to a pretty high degree. Now, with the band, unfortunately, since it is placed on the ground, it is going to lose slack. So as we go lower into that stretched position that we're trying to target, there's really not a lot of tension. And then when we go back up, the tension builds up here. Now, the only issue with this is that our joints are now stacked. There's no stretch that's happening here. And the tension's not necessarily on my glutes or my hamstrings, but rather it's just in my hands. I'm holding this. So in order to kind of counteract that, we need a second band. And so we're gonna step through the band, just like a banded RDL in the gym, right? Usually when you do a banded RDL in such a fashion where you're holding dumbbells or a barbell and using this kind of band, this is to help kind of teach someone how to properly hip hinge and push their hips back. In this case, we're using it to create more tension as we're stretching forward. So you can take the band, either again, you don't have to do this loop. I just did this to shorten my band, and I'm gonna step over it, get myself into position. And in terms of how far forward I'm gonna be with this, I wanna be far enough where there is a pretty decent stretch, because as I'm going back, that band is gonna get looser and looser and looser. So I'm gonna adjust this camera real quick here so you can see the results of this. Okay, so here I go. I'm going forward. See, there's a lot of tension here. It's pretty tight. I'm gonna take my second band. I'm gonna step over it. Okay. Then I'm gonna perform an RDL. So here we go. I'm going up, pushing forward. I'm going back. There's a lot of tension here. A lot of tension on the stretch. And I'm coming back up. I'm going back. And so what that does is that it gives you a pretty even strength curve throughout the RDL, especially if you're at home and you don't have anything really to do with weights. If you're gonna use a band, make sure with an RDL you're using two bands, because you're basically taking away the most important part in the RDL, which is when you're stretched. And so both bands resolve that.